financial statements. Introduction. In accordance with Section 23 of the National Audit Act 2008, I appointed MS PricewaterhouseCoopers, certified public accountants, to audit the financial statements of the National Social Security Fund on my behalf, to enable me to report to Parliament in accordance with Article 163, subsection 4 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995, as amended. Opinion. I have audited the financial statements of the National Social Security Fund, the fund, set out on pages 13 to 96, comprise the statement of assets available for benefits as at 30th of June 2023, the statement of changes in net assets available for benefits for the year, the statements of changes in the fund reserves, the statement cash flows for the year then ended, and notes comprising the summary of significant accounting policies and other extra information. In my opinion, the accompanying financial statements give a true and fair view of the financial position of National Social Society, and as at 30th June 2023, and of its financial performance, its cash flows for the year then ended, in accordance with international financial reporting standards and the requirements of Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority, UBRA Act 2011, and National Social Security Fund Act 1985, as amended 2022. Emphasis of matters. Without qualifying my opinion, I draw attention to the following matter disclosed in the financial statements. Accumulated deficits recognized within the member liabilities in the statements of net assets available for benefits. I draw your attention to the composition of members' liabilities in the statement net assets available for the benefits, which shows an accumulated deficit of Uganda shillings 794 billion, resulting from the allocations of interest to members' accounts exceeding amounts available for the allocation of interest. As a result, accumulated members' funds exceeded funds assets by GX, the shillings 8 billion. Payment interest beyond the reserve is an indication that the fund may not be having sufficient capital to settle member liabilities. The directors accept the deficit arising be reversed within the next 2 to 3 years through net increases in fund beyond and amounts to be allocated to members as interest over the period. Signed, John F.S. Mwanga, Auditor General. September 2023. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the Auditor General himself, John Mwanga, who is coming to us live from Audit House. We want to thank you, sir, for joining us this morning and for your statement to the members who are joining us both here in the room and virtually. I want to now introduce the fact that you can join the conversation today. We will have a Q&A session much later, plenary session, where we will be taking questions from the members, and we are using the hashtag AMM2023, so join the conversation. I now take the pleasure of inviting the Chief Executive Officer of the Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority, Mr. Martin Subuga, to come and make his remarks. You're most welcome, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, the Honorable Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, the Auditor General, the OBRA Board Chairman, the Chairman NSSF Board of Trustees, the NSSF Board of Directors, members of the National Social Security Fund, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you warm greetings from the Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority, Board of Directors, management and staff. And it is with great pleasure and honor to attend this 11th annual members meeting. First, allow me to congratulate Mr. Patrick Ayota upon his appointment as the Managing Director of the Fund and wish him tremendous success on this journey and pledge our support. Secondly, I wish to thank the NSSF Board of Directors for providing oversight to the Fund, establishing such a strong institutional framework, and for organizing these annual members' meetings. These meetings are a hallmark of transparent stewardship because they provide an open platform for you to account to members and receive their feedback. As you may be aware, holding annual general meetings in the case of the annual members meeting is a statutory requirement provided for under the OBRA Act. It's therefore not by coincidence that NSSF is holding this 11th annual members meeting when UBRA is celebrating exactly 12 years today since the commencement of the OBRA Act 2011, which came into force on 26 September 2011. In the conduct of the members' meeting, the directors and the trustees of NSSF are only complying to the OBRA Act and regulations, and of course the NSSF Act, but also providing the feedback to not only the members, but also the various stakeholders who are interested in the activities of the fund. It's however not my duty to speak about the NSSF performance. The audited accounts have just been declared this morning, but rather to provide some insights in the sector and the general perspective of what has transpired during the past 1 year. Of course, we are yet to receive the audited accounts, but the practice is that once they've been presented to this audience, that's the members, and upon their approval, then they'll be submitted to the regulator for scrutiny. Nonetheless, in executing our oversight function, we receive regular reports from all schemes, and also we are privy to quite a number of documentation and information upon which we drive our market analysis. So since UBRA's establishment, we've developed systems and capabilities for effective regulation and supervision of the sector with the primary objective of protecting the scheme members' retirement savings. We have established a strong supervisory framework which has provided a foundation for strong performance of the sector over the past 10 years. Retirement benefit schemes today hold 21.6 billion of assets, of which NSSF holds 18.5 billion, while occupational schemes hold 3.1 billion. It should be noted that NSSF has been in existence since 1985, but growth has mostly escalated in the last 10 years. And of course, similarly, the growth in the occupational schemes has also shot up exponentially in the past 9 years. This not only reflects adherence to regulatory requirements, the set rules and standards, but also indicates a great market potential if nurtured and well supervised. The sector has registered an average growth rate of 16% over the past 7 years. However, during the period ending June 2023, we experienced a slowdown, growing at an average of 9.2 in investments. And this was largely on account of 3 factors. Number one, you had a decline in yields on government securities during the year. The central bank, through its tight monetary policy, and of course, government, through its fiscal discipline, were able to contain the escalation of the interest rates on government securities, which lowered the yields on bonds issued during the financial 2022-23 compared to the financial 2021-2022. The beauty, though, is that the bonds issued in the earlier years at generous yields continue to provide a cushion of returns to members. And given the long-term nature of investments that the majority of schemes in this country. The other factor that affected us in the sector was largely on the exchange rate, largely on the appreciation of the Ugandan shilling against the Kenyan shilling. Not that we don't want a strong Ugandan shilling, but it is a reverse of trends where there was a very strong depreciation in the Kenyan shilling against the Ugandan shilling since August 2022. And this has significantly impacted on the scheme investments, as the sector is largely exposed to the Kenyan market, where we hold around 24% of the portfolio, which are invested in Kenyan fixed income assets and equities. The third area where we had that affected the sector largely and the underperformance of the equities market in the region, of course, not only here, but on the Kenyan side, and where we saw the stocks traded poorly during the year because of alternative investment options outside the region, and of course with the challenges in Kenya because of the foreign debt that they're holding, which largely impaired the market, and of course the equities that we have. We have quite a substantial amount in the bonds in the Kenyan market, and of course in the equities side. But we are, however, confident that schemes were able to navigate and continue to navigate and taking advantage of the diversification benefits from varied asset allocation. For sustainability and further sector growth and mitigation against the risks, the authority has taken a number of measures to address some of these challenges. First, we think one of the challenges in the sector-wide has been the level of understanding and competences of the trustees, and we've been able to deliberately develop the trustees' capacity stress certification program, which is aimed at driving the standards of trustees and their ability to understand and interpret basic economic and market fundamentals to inform their decision-making as they execute their fiduciary duties. The second one, we've gone ahead to enhance our risk-based supervision framework to support our oversight through the development of an electronic system. And the risk-based supervision system which is a proactive approach to identify risks timely through early warning system mechanisms, shall enable us to identify and deal with issues before they escalate and cause greater harm to the scheme. We expect effective operation of risk operation framework is scheduled for October, just in a day's time. And thirdly, the authority has approved a number of requests to temporarily vary the investment allocation limits This one was to address the issue of the underperformance of the equity side and the performance of the Kenyan side, to allow schemes to increase the investments in the government securities, local ones in Uganda, to 90% despite the current cap of 80%. This is just a temporary arrangement, and we think it will be restored to normality in 12 months. Before I conclude, I thought it wise to share the other important area of challenge that we are facing or we are grappling with, and that is the low coverage of retirement benefits. As of June 2023, retirement benefits sector coverage was at 14% of the working population, and this is based on the new population estimate of Uganda labor force issued by UBOS in 2023. There is therefore an urgent need to address this issue of exclusiveness from the retirement benefits sector, and we are working tirelessly to ensure that we make a contribution into this. We believe that if we put our heads together with all the schemes and all the innovations around, we shall be able to pull off this. We know which is a very big challenge of old age poverty. But it's also important to note that the issue of old age poverty is not unique to Uganda, it's a global concern. And as indicated in the UN Sustainable Development Goal 1, there's a desire to eradicate extreme poverty for all people everywhere by 2030. But it must be noted that poverty affects the elderly in more burdensome ways, and many of them are vulnerable and unable to fend for themselves. This is why at UBRA we emphasize the early commitment to long-term savings, which goes a long way to eradicate this old age poverty. But it's also important to note that it's the individual's responsibility of every able person to choose a long-term saving vehicle other than focusing and relying on government support. We believe this will have a huge financial base necessary to give them the standard of living that they desire and subsequently enhance their lifestyle. For us to address this global concern, we've embarked on two things. Number one, we've embedded expanding of coverage in our works, but also through interaction we've done a lot of works. And we are about to launch a study that we've done with the Financial Sector Development Uganda, which we think shall be able to contribute to the discussion on the micro-pension agenda. But also think that we need to pursue the further discussion on preservation of funds. You may recall that during the year, last year, during the NSSF Amendment Act, there was a rush from people to access their funds through the midterm access window. But I also want to commend those who listened to us and preserved the funds, who are just trying to test the waters. It's upon these kinds of amounts that are preserved for your interest that can be able to supplement and support your old age challenges. Of course, we've also opened discussions for a favorable tax regime to promote accumulation, and we think that our engagement in the Ministry of Finance, we shall be able to have a clear direction on this. But also want to implore the different schemes and the innovation, and of course the NSSF, to introduce options that are not basically focusing on the lump sum payments that we have today. We think that if you spread your payments across, they can be able to address the cash flow that you need in your retirement and subsequently sustain your living. And of course, we need to enhance the financial literacy, and this is why I want to commend the NSSF for the journey they've made in continuously educating the masses. At UBRA, we commit to support any initiative that promotes coverage of retirement benefits to the wider Ugandan population, and we continue to remind members that retirement savings are for long term. Likewise, investment decisions should be also long term in nature. Unfortunately, this market is dominated by short-termism, which is influencing investment decisions. And this is another discussion that we need to focus on. We know that trustees and members need to reverse this position. Otherwise, the focus on short-termism, which is largely influencing the returns, tends to impair the long-term objective that mirrors the long-term nature of the investment market. As I conclude, we commend the NSSF board, management and employees for contributing to the delivery of the fund's mandate thus far, ensuring compliance with the existing legal framework, and more so contributing to a vibrant, secure, and sustainable retirement benefit sector in Uganda. As the sector regulator, we reiterate our commitment to uphold best governance practices in retirement benefit scheme, and also ensuring prudence in schemes administration and investment as we protect the retirement benefits of members and their beneficiaries. It's upon this foundation that government can leverage on the pension sector's long-term savings to support Uganda's economic transformation. I thank you for your attention, and may God bless you abundantly.
Thank you very much, the CEO of UBRA, Mr. Martin Subuga. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment we've all been waiting for, the Managing Director's report for the financial year 2022-2023. Get out your notebooks, get out your pens. This could be a masterclass in social security. Ladies and gentlemen, the Managing Director, NSSF, Mr. Patrick Ayota.
Thank you very much. Thank you, the Auditor General and PwC, who is here for the work that you've done. Thank you very much, our CEO of UBRA, Mr. Martin Subuga. Thank you, the board members who are here, my bosses, and thank you, the previous board who continue to be our bosses and continue to guide us. And thank you, my ex-colleagues who are here. So mine will just be to take you through last year and the future. Because in coming here, what we do last year builds up the foundation for the future. So we'll just go through those as a few steps as we have. Well, yesterday Victor was telling me you need to start up with a joke, but I was thinking about, I don't have one, except to tell you it's not a joke, it's actually the truth. I'm from a little village called Nyem Nyem. Now, people have a hard time. They think it's non-existent. Actually, it is existent. You're going from Tororo to Mbale, halfway, 14 miles. Make a left. Ask for Nyem Nyem, they'll direct you there. And that's where I come. And you'll understand why I say it's very important. Because the oxygen we breathe there and the water we drank there made us to be able to come and share this with you here. So who we are. If you think about, we've kind of gone through these slides before. Vision basically to be a social security provider of choice. It's important we have the word choice there because in our minds, we wanted when somebody saves with NSSF and they go back to bed, they can say, thank God, I saved with NSSF. And our purpose, which basically Mr. Martin talked about, we want to make lives better by making savings a way of life. And keep that in mind because later on we bring that back. And this is basically the kind of the values that we built our platform on. The customer, you are members are in everything we do. Secondly, integrity is important to us. Trust, by the way, is our most important currency. I'll also share with you where that actually displays itself. And then we are going to be innovative. As Mr. Martin said, our society needs that because we tend to be short-term the things that we do. So we're trying to become innovative so we can actually deliver more value to you. Of course, work as a team. From the top to the bottom, from the board to the ministers, to us, the staff working as a team. And that was actually shown a lot during this past year. And then we were trying to be efficient. We are lean. Now, when I say that, many guys are going to say, no, you guys are kidding, you're wasting money. But I'm going to prove to you that actually, no, we are not. So if you look at our strategy, we set up a vision in 2015. By then, our chairman was Mr. Patrick Kavirenge, who is sitting there. 2015, they pushed us to set up what our strategy would be in 2025, which is 2 years from now. At that time, by the way, we were a 5.5 trillion shilling fund. And they said, I think we wanted to be 10 or 11. They said, no, no, you can get to 20. And they say, no, sir, your board members, you're kind of crazy. These were the ones who do the work. But they insisted that, no, we need to stretch ourselves, that we'd have a 20 trillion shilling fund by 2025. You'll see where we are in a few minutes. We need to drive our customer satisfaction to 95%. At that point, we are around 69, I believe. We need to be able to pay benefits within 1 day, especially age benefits. At that time, we're paying them in about 36 days. And then we needed to have our staff engaged. For you to deliver that, you need your staff engaged at 95% by 2025. At that time, we're about 70%. There's a correlation between staff satisfaction and customer satisfaction. Research says if your staff are happy, they will deliver good value to your members or to your customers. And that's true, because who do they meet? When people come to a worker's house, they don't come and see me. They go see somebody who is sitting on the ground floor. Now, when we deliver that, we said this was going to be our value proposition to our members. 3, safety. That is critical, that we keep your money in such a way that the day you become eligible, the money is there. Safety proposition. Not just the physical money, but also we've preserved your money against inflation. Midterm was an interesting exercise. Many people thought that we couldn't pay midterm. So a lot of people just came as the regulator said to test us. Would we be willing to pay? Would we have the capacity to pay? And we proved them right, because in 3 months' time, we paid close to 30,000 members, over 460 billion shillings, over a 3-month period. That's what we had. Those are the number of members who had served the year before over a 12-month period. So in 3 months' time, we showed actually we had the capabilities to pay that. Interestingly, midterm, the people who took their money and brought it back, I said, no, I was just testing you guys, see if it would work. So that was actually. The other one is convenience. It informs the way we serve our members. We want to serve you anytime, anywhere, any place, on any device, so you don't have to come, take a border, take a taxi, come to a branch. In the confines of your bedroom, we can provide you services. And then empowerment. This one we have to thank the government for. One of the saddest things you ever run into, and we come through that, is somebody has got 100 million shillings with NSSF. He comes and tells you that my wife is ill, my wife needs to go to India. And you tell them, we can't give you any money, because the law never made a provision for that. We cry with them, they cry together. Now, finally, the amendment allowed us to do something, that now members can plan for these short-term things that come across. You can save extra so that you can take care of those emergencies. That's what empowerment was all about. And as we're going to talk about, we're going to be rolling that much because we want our members to be empowered. The model is simple. We collect 5% from you, 10% from your employer. By the way, for some of you who are in financial world, there's no better investment than that. The day you put your 1 shilling with us, the employer is forced to put 2. In financial terms, that very day you go to 100%. But I don't know where you will get that anywhere. Then we invest it. We've just put your money in 3 classes of assets. Real estate, 9%. Most people don't realize that pension towers, workers' house, Loboa, and you name every real estate we have, they only form 9% of the portfolio, but they give us the most noise, because people smoke, we see that in terms of what they do. Equity is 13%, fixed income, 78%. What that basically means, 78% means that if NSF closed today, we would pay 78% of our members within 3 months. It may take us another 1 year to sell all the land ourselves, but we would pay for everybody in terms of what we see. We invest that money, we get revenue, we use part of it for overhead. Last year it was 1.02% of our assets. We give the rest to the members as benefits, and you come and claim in those ways. That's our business model. Simple model as it is. And we continuously go that through the cycle so you can actually see that. If you look at the fund today, we have 2.2 million members who are registered with us. 1.6 million have a balance. About 700 are active with us. 88,000 employers registered. Only 45 or 46,000 are active. We have about 22,000 voluntary members because we haven't rolled that up. You can come to us through the branches or through our network. Last year, the percentage of members who came and got services through our branch network were only 8%. 6%. 94% contacted and got services through our digital channels. And we have a staff complement of 579 staff. That number, I'm going to tell you something. Our neighbors, Kenya, right now, if you look at it in dollar terms, we are around $5.8 billion fund. We have 579 staff serving all of you. Our neighbors in Kenya, around $4 billion fund. They've got 1,300 staff serving them. And that tells a little bit about the efficiencies with the fund. We're almost 60% more bigger than NSSF Kenya. But we've got a staff complement of only 50% of what they have. So that, it tells you the level of service that we have that has come through there. We go a little bit into last year, and I think the CEO of Ubra mentioned it. The global economy still remained a problem. Lingering shocks from the pandemic, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, global tightening of monetary policy. What happened then, as he mentioned, a lot of developing economies, Uganda Stock Exchange, Nairobi Stock Exchange, Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, there was capital flight from those because the tightening of rates inside the US raised interest rates in the US. So most people then left, say, let's take my money where there is a higher rate. And what happened is, a place where we invest our money, as Martin's talked about, like in Nairobi, declined by 14%. Uganda declined. Rwanda declined. Dar es Salaam declined because of that. So there was a global depression. Whereas they thought that the growth rate would be 3.1% like last year, the growth rate actually projected for this is only 2.1%. That had a lot of impact, especially for us in Kenya. What you find that in Kenya's situation became worse, especially because you had tighter financial conditions. They had a big drought. They had the global hypes, government spending cuts. It basically impacted the Kenya economy. And we saw it in the Kenya shilling. Now you can just see that graph. Over the 18 months, what happened to the Kenya shillings? It kept on depreciating against the US dollar. But was depreciating much faster than the Uganda shilling, which meant the Uganda shilling was appreciating much faster against the Kenya shilling. Now, my director here, the deputy PSST, that's a very good thing for us, because now that means if I have 10 shillings, I can buy more of Kenyan goods than before. And it's a good thing for us. Where it hits us though, when we do our evaluations, because PwC tells us here the accounting standards require that. It doesn't matter whether you still have that cow you never sold it, but each year when you're doing a report, make sure that you translate that cow back in the Uganda shilling. So the best example to tell you is, suppose I bought a cow in Kenya 2 years ago. The cow was 10,000 Kenya shillings. The exchange rate between the Uganda shilling and the Kenya shilling was 30 Uganda shillings to 1 Kenya shilling, which means for me to buy that 10,000 shilling cow, I needed to get 30,000 Uganda shillings, exchange it back into Kenya shillings. And I bought my cow. 1 year later, because all that was going and what the PSSC is doing here, the Uganda shilling, now you don't need 30 shillings, you need 25 shillings to buy the same cow. In accounting terms, what we do is we then have to record our cow at 25,000 shillings, not 30,000 shillings. I still have the cow, but the accountants have said, you need to revalue that cow based on what you have. So that basically is what has come, what basically the CEO was talking about. Here you can see very naturally, in June 2022, our inflation rate was about 6.8%. Our CBR, which the government uses to manage inflation, was 8.5. When that hit the place, Bank of Uganda said, oh, no, we need 5. So what they did, they raised the CBR rate to 10%. And it worked. Because guess what? The inflation rate then fell to 4.9%. As it fell, and you heard what the CEO was talking about, our bonds, the long-term bonds that are being issued, began to also fall. We still have the old bonds that were good, but as the rates fell, the new monies we're investing it at lower and lower rates. And that had an impact also on the interest income that we had. Finally, the big thing that many of you know about, from December to May, basically even up to now, the fund was under serious scrutiny by the People's House, Parliament, IGG, and even the Office of Director General, and they're looking at things from left to right. And one of the things that I think we can actually thank God for this fund is this, that despite the internal disruption, the fund actually remains strong and resilient. It is a testament to us, as all of us as members of the fund. So I'm going to give you some bit. How did we perform against that background? Against that, how did we perform as a fund? Let me just start with our people. We call it our people agenda. We want NSSF we want to make it delightful to work at NSSF. So we have the target. Remember I told you by 2025, our staff engagement should be 95%. How do we perform? Look at that graph. We're at 92. We almost get 95 last year. But because of the disruptions we had, our staff satisfaction dropped to 86%. In the world of management, the global standard is 75%. If you get over 75%, you're happy. But with us, we had an ambitious goal, 95%. It declined from 92% to 86%. 6% fell. That's because the people who felt the most of the disruption were our people. Imagine investigators stepping in, coming in all the time, asking questions and so on. That had an impact on our staff. And if we felt that pain from the top management to everyone, we felt that pain. And that shows in terms of the satisfaction with the jobs that we're having. By the way, we began working now to take that back up. Then we had what we call efficient processes. How do we perform? Remember, our target is to pay benefits within 1 day by 2025, especially age benefit. Now, some of you may say, actually, the first time we say that, the board says we must be crazy. You cannot pay benefits within 1 day. And we say, no, we can't. And they say, nobody is doing it in this environment. I say, yes, nobody is doing it in this environment as a pension fund. However, let me give you what we benchmarked against. Many of you, if you go in the bank and you deposit your money in the morning, you deposit cash in the morning, how long does it take you to get that money if you go to the ATM machine? Maybe 5 minutes. You can come from there, go to the ATM machine and get your money. Folks, we've had your money for 30 years. We know where you live, where you work, your phone number, even when you're going to turn 55. By the way, I can begin processing your payments 1 month before you turn 55, and that morning I give you a call. You want it now or tomorrow? So we can deliver it in 1 day, especially on you. So we had done quite well. You can see the blue line shows you our turnaround time. We grew up from, it was 9 before, then of course now when you see the jump, that was basically driven by midterm. We paid 28,000 members before in 2021. By 2022, we paid 46,000. The jump, that also increased the turnaround time. In last year, we reduced the number of days to 11.9. We still paid 46,000 members. And we paid last year 1.2 trillion shillings. 1.2 trillion shillings to 46,000 members, an average of 12, and I use the word average. Some of the age benefits, we actually pay them in 3 days. What has kind of dragged that number up are survivor benefits. At the beginning of the year, we thought that we could actually reduce that number by relying on NIRA. As you know, NIRA is supposed to be the custodian of our biodata. It should have a record of all our births, all our deaths. So we thought that we could go to NIRA, and NIRA could say, if they say Patrick is dead, he's really dead. I can rely on that. We did a test on 10 files, survivor benefits, 4 were still alive. People reported their spouses dead, but they're still alive. The sad thing is people don't know the implication of reporting somebody dead through NIRA. That means even your national ID technically is dead. You can't open up a bank account with a dead. So there is this implication that we need to educate our people about. So we've now resorted back, until that is sorted out, if somebody comes and says, I want to claim a benefit because a member died, now we go to the home, talk to the LC1, look at the grave, talk to the relatives and so on, and that's what's pushing that number up. And I think the sooner we clean that out, the better it will be for us. Of course, we want to our customers now. This is the number that shocks. It actually shocked us when we got it. Last year, 2022, 82% customer satisfaction. Remember our target is 95%. In spite of the disruptions, our member satisfaction increased to 86%. Something that is so counterintuitive because you do think, no, there is no way you could do that. Now, remember there's a correlation between staff and customer. Staff is 86%, and that is also reflected in our customer satisfaction, 86%. One of the things we used to argue about, some people say, no, Patrick, 86%, no, that number is too high. It's too high. I met somebody came and talked to me, you guys delayed in paying them, you guys did this and that. So people come to you when they have problems. And that's part of the 14%. The other 86% are okay in that case. So that number we're going to work on. We now come then to the growing the fund, which is a financial. And this way, we actually now come to the actual performance that we have. These contributions. Now you think about this. Last year we collected, you members entrusted us with 1.5 trillion shillings. This year that number went up by 200 billion shillings, 1.7 trillion shillings. When you look at the graph year on year, and this is where you find there's a correlation between that customer satisfaction and actually what happened. We had a budget each month of collecting 132 billion shillings. If you look at the months of July 2022 to December 2022, we were collecting around 120 billion, 123, 120 billion. By December 2022, we were behind budget by 51 billion shillings. In January, we collected 148 billion shillings. From that point on, there is intensive scrutiny, there's intensive investigation, there's intensive noise around the fund. But for some reason, the members continue to trust us with their money. January, 148 billion, and it went on one up each month after that. By June, we collected 192 billion shillings in June, the highest we have ever collected in any month. Now, that tells you something, that the brand, the trust, which you say is the currency, our members never lost trust in us. In fact, what we found out, the people who made the most noise about the fund were never even members, never even stayed with the fund. Now, things we learned. It was one of the most, and this is where I tell my colleagues, guys, let's never blow this up. Let's make sure we maintain that trust because they trust us with their money. Look at the benefits. Up 2021, before midterm, we paid 642 billion. 2022, we paid about 1.2 billion. Also 2020, 1.2 billion. Trillion, 1.2 trillion, thank you very much. So the amounts we are paying has consistently increased. This slide tells you something. The proportional benefits paid to contributions has been increasing, pointing to a maturing fund. And that then points us to then do a new thing. Look at in 2016, 2017, we're only paying about the proportion of benefits we're paying vis-a-vis the contribution was 30%. Look at what happened in 2022. That number is now 70%, which means when you look at in pension funds, we don't do it, but technically you're saying that the way you grow when your contributions are more than your benefits. And then when your income is more than your expenses. As the benefits begin to creep up, if you don't do something, your fund matures, and there's a point at which you can begin to die. And that's why we have to figure out a new way of doing things to get where we want to do. This graph, those who are looking at efficiency, I want to tell you something. There is the red line. The red line is our cost, year in, year out. Total cost, everything, depreciation, non-cash, whatever, is all in that red line. By the last year, interestingly, now we spent 190 billion shillings from 203 billion shillings. We actually spent less money than the previous year. Look at the blue line. The blue line is our realized income, the actual income we made. It went up from 1.9 trillion to 2.2 trillion shillings. Now you may say, hey, now you guys made all that money. What did you do? Did you eat that money? Look at the green line. It all went to the member. We took a little bit, spent it on our expenses, but then the rest of it, we've given to our members. This is the value we create to our members, and we create value for the members through these ways. We collect on your behalf 1.7 trillion shillings. The interest we give on your account, 1.58 trillion shillings. So last year we collected 3.3 trillion shillings. That is the value we created for the member, and we spent 190 billion shillings. Let me just put it to you in a very simple language. Think of you woke up in January 1, all members say, we're going to give you 190 billion shillings, go make money for us. At the end of the year, we made 3.3 trillion shillings for you. That we brought, collect on your behalf, invest on your behalf. That number is 17.4 times the cost you spent. For each shilling you invested in us on the cost side, we generated 7.4 shillings for the member. Let me do a comparison. I like our neighbor in the neighborhood. That number is 8 times. Tanzania is worse, 5 times. And the Uganda NSSF staff member generates 17 times for each shilling that is invested in them. No, sir, we're not wasting money. The mistake we make is we normally start with the cost. You've spent 190 billion, and we stop there. We don't go and ask the question, what did it generate in value? Because if you do, you'll find that this fund is one of the most efficient in the globe. Based on our size, about a $6 billion size, the average measure for efficiency, our basic thing, for this, we should be spending 2.1% of our assets on expenses. In other words, instead of spending 1.09, we should be spending close to 300 billion shillings. We only spent 1.02%, and we're driving that number to below 1%. Now, the only thing that happened here, our total income, whatever I showed you evaluation, I showed you the realized income. Our total income was impacted by what we talked about the Kenya when we're doing the valuation, about 1.04 trillion shillings in term caused by the depreciation of the Kenya shilling. We think that's a temporary matter that will come through as we do that. But otherwise, the fund performed very well. We made a promise to our members that we'll preserve your value by making sure that we at least give you 10-year average inflation plus 2 percentage points. If you look at the past years, we've kept that promise. This year, we hope we keep that promise. The reason why there's that question mark is only the minister who can announce that. So we're all waiting eagerly to know what's going to announce. Hopefully, we actually do beat that price. If you look at, if the average price is 5%, that means our promise is 7%. So if anything about 7%, we've more than beaten our promise to you. Finally, so all that then cultivates into the number. The fund grew by 8% from 17.3 to 18.6 trillion shillings. Remember the target the board gave us was 20 trillion shillings by the year 2025. The fund grew by 1.4 trillion shillings between 17.3 from last year to this year. We only need 1.4 trillion shillings to get to 20 trillion, which means most likely, and I use the word most likely, we'll hit 20 trillion by 2024. So, sir, thank you for pushing us. Some of the agendas we're doing, this is what we call the entrepreneurial scale. We are scaling this. It's important to understand some of these things, and it's going to come back to what we talked about with that. We have a high innovator initiative together with MasterCard Foundation. What we figured out was, as the fund begins to mature, we better begin to create our own members. We can't wait for the economy to create members. It is not creating members. So we have this program where we're trying to create jobs. So far, we've funded 266 businesses. We've trained over almost 7,000 entrepreneurs, created and sustained 88,000 jobs. Out of those, we actually have registered 1,800, and they brought in 200 million shillings in contributions. And this is the starting of the program. We are creating our own members. We're not waiting for the economy to do that. And we're going to tell you some other things that we have. We have what we call the Artisan Initiative. We onboarded about 6 or 7 on a platform. Now, if you want a carpenter, you want a mechanic, you want a plumber, go to Uncle Bob, and you'll get one of them there. They come and serve you. If you don't like, give them a thumbs down. Nobody else will get them. But we're trying to do that so that we can be part of this economy. There are some of the things we did. Kampala one was good. Raised almost 1 billion shillings to renovate 20 schools. The Career Expos, we reached about 5,000 students in 7 universities. And of course, our financial literacy program that you talked about. Interestingly enough, we had a reach of 2.3 million Ugandans online on financial literacy. It's one of the best programs that we have that's helping us reach there. So as we come to that, now I take you a little bit to the future. Remember our purpose is to make lives better by making savings a way of life. And the question is, we should not make lives better for only 10% of Uganda's labor force, because that's only what we have in this country. That's what's saving with the NSSF today. We cannot and say we're making lives better. The fund is maturing, as we said. So we must look for new opportunities for growth. That led us to what now you've seen plus around here, what we call a Vision 2035. Has 3 pillars that underpin it. We want to move our coverage from 10% to 50% of Uganda's working population. 50%. We want to grow from whatever we are now, 18.6 trillion, to 50 trillion shillings by 2035. We want to do all that while there is an engagement, satisfaction rate between all our stakeholders, our customers, our staff, and others at 95%. I'm going to tell you something, it's audacious. You want to grow from 18.6 trillion to 50 trillion shillings in 12 years. It took us 43 years from 1985 to grow to 18.6 trillion shillings. How dare you think you can do it? Yes, we can, and yes, we will. But the numbers don't lie. Most likely we could really exceed this number. Somebody told me the other day, said, Patrick, that's so bad. You know, they give you a 5-year contract, but then you are giving a 10-year commitment. Aren't you trying to trap somebody else to come? The answer is yes, I am. But the truth is, we'll get there. We can actually get there by the things that we do. And how will we get there? The two platforms that will take us there is what create a willingness to save among Ugandans. Exactly what the CEO of WUBRA said. We repurpose and redesign the financial literacy program, animate it, local language, whatever it is, so we can bring that to bear. The key is stakeholder management. The Minister of Gender opened our eyes something we didn't even know was in this country. So far, since July, we've had 3 major engagements. Minister of Works, just dealing with the road sector. And there are so many people in the road sector that we've never even seen before. And now they're saying each subcontractor on the road sector will not get a license renewed unless they have an NSSF clearing certificate. We had an engagement with last week with the ICT section, ICT ministry. And there's so many players within there who had never, same commitment. And we're going to have one with we're going to have one also with the energy sector. All the oil, petroleum guys, the room was full of subcontractors, and they made a commitment they will not license any subcontractor without an NSSF clearance certificate. And those are the members that how we increase. And by leveraging on what's already available in the ecosystem, we will. Of course, awareness and compliance campaigns will follow that. And then we'll revisit alternative investments. We're looking at PPPs, public-private partnerships, for housing, impactful projects that will unleash. We're even going to the communities because there are people in the communities, skilled, trained, have nothing to do. They just need a little help, and they'll begin saving with the fund. So we're going to be part and parcel of this country in terms of what we do. So after creating the willingness to save, we have to create the capacity to save. And really the goals are 3: increase people's earnings, monetize the informal sector, make savings convenient. We'll create jobs. The High Innovator Program, we're going to scale it up. Most likely we'll scale it from 500 startups, maybe 1,000 startups, and create enough jobs through that. This one I will love. Finally, we had a major discussion with Mr. Chailap, the Deputy PSST, and his team. And we all agreed, if you think about, if we're going to reach 50% of this population, you need to get out of the formal sector. We have to. We cannot be in the formal sector. We have to go in the informal sector. The biggest group in the informal sector is who? Agriculture. So whether you want it or not, you better touch those farmers for them to save with you. So when we look at the ecosystem, let's look at NADS, OWC, PDM. The assumption we've made under that is that the farmer is 100% of the problem. So the production side of this business, the supply side of agriculture is the problem. Fix supply, you'll create demand. But that's the fundamental flaw in economics. Supply doesn't drive demand. Demand drives supply. So we finally agree that we need to do something with the demand side of agriculture. So we are soon going to create a marketing company. It's going through approval now, a national marketing company, to bring order, to bring predictability, certainty in agriculture. So the farmer who grows that potatoes, if he signs with us, knows exactly who is going to buy those potatoes and at what price and what quality, what quantity. The day we bring that, we'll raise productivity in this country on agriculture 3 times. one of the saddest things that happens is there was a minister from Zimbabwe. He was here. We're trying to get him to buy maize from us. And he said, I cannot buy Ugandan maize to bring to Zimbabwe because there will be a riot on the streets. People are going to ask me that, why is that you brought Ugandan maize that's more expensive in Zimbabwe than Mexican maize that's cheaper? So our maize in Zimbabwe is more expensive than the maize from Mexico, which is in the other continent. And the reason is simple. From an acre of maize, a Mexican farmer gets 2,400 kilograms. And there's a market. So he can invest in fertilizers, can invest in all the things that he needs to invest in because he has that. A Ugandan farmer who gets 800 kilograms of maize on an acre struggles to sell that 800 acres. You tell me if he's going to invest in fertilizers to increase productivity. So that, and we knew we ran a pilot, each of those farmers who will be participating will be saving with the fund. That's how we get to our 50 trillion. So we'll create our own farmers, our own members, and then we'll become the category organizer for the informal groups, as we talked about before. The importance of saving, my last area, just a Vietnam story. Many of you have heard this. Why we must all save. This is an example from Vietnam. Look at Vietnam. Compare this country to this Uganda. It's an agrarian society, so are we. It was coming from devastating wars, so did we. Their major export is coffee, so is ours. They have revolutionary leadership, so do we. They're gifted in natural resources. Think about that. That's a history. You would almost take the word Vietnam, put Uganda, and the same story. What are the reforms they had? They liberalized the economy to market forces. So did we. We looked to attract FDI. So did we. They had policies on value addition and industrialization. So do we. And we have a deliberate policy for export-led growth. Same country. Two countries. But see where Vietnam is. That is their GDP in current prices. The year is 2023. Their GDP is $550 billion. Uganda's GDP is $55 billion. If you go back and look at that number, we are where Vietnam was around 2004. What happened? How did they grow that fast? This is the intervention they did. The state enterprise, the state was very involved in agriculture. They involved in coffee. They did not leave the private sector alone. I think the fallacy we make, we think the private sector is strong enough to do. No, we prove they're not. As private sector, we are selfish, we are small, we are chaotic, we don't do things right. You need the state to help us get that. But number two is where my focus is. The impact of domestic savings. And you'll see what that did to Vietnam. They're able to invest in infrastructure using their money, invest in the things that need to be done. Now, let me just show you that graph. Basically, the orange bar is GDP per capita of Vietnam. If you compare to where we are, right now we are right under $1,000 per capita. The blue line is the domestic saving rate compared to the GDP. If you look around 1989, the GDP per capita was right around almost between 5 to 10%. They are just under 1,000. Then they began to save. Look at where they are today. The GDP per capita is about 3,000. Look at their savings rate, 35%. In fact, if you look at all the Asian tigers, whether it is Taiwan, South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, China, they began the journey to becoming the Asian tigers when their domestic long-term savings hit 25% of GDP. Ours is 11%. No wonder when the World Bank says we're not giving you any new money, we all panic, except the president. We all get into, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? Because we are depending on the donor community for it when we can actually have our own savings. Because in that case, we don't show up on the table empty-handed. We can put something on the table and negotiate better terms for ourselves. And as an NSSF, when we say we want to raise savings to 50 trillion, it's not just for us. It's actually for this country. Because if we don't, we have to encourage savings if we are to accelerate the entry of Uganda into the club of Africa economic giants. And the reason is simple. Saving with the NSSF is good for you as a member. It's good for your family. It's good for Uganda. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's really not enough for what was truly a masterclass on Social Security and an excellent performance by the National Social Security Fund. We want to thank you, the Managing Director, and your team, and of course, through you, the board. And if you're joining us for this 11th virtual annual members meeting, we want to welcome you. We want to appreciate the virtual audience that's joining us on Twitter, on X. Well, now we have to remember it's X. On X and on YouTube and all the platforms where you're watching us from, including television. We want to thank you for being with us. We have a live audience here, and much later this morning we will have a plenary session where we'll engage the senior executive team at NSSF on this performance that's been reported by the Managing Director. We want to once again appreciate the Managing Director's report on the financials, the performance, and the outlook. I want to now take the pleasure of inviting the chairman of the NSSF board, Mr. Peter Chimboa, to come and make his remarks. And after his remarks, he will also launch our ESG product. So we want to welcome you, sir. And also after launching the ESG, Chairman, you will invite our Minister of Gender to address us.
Thank you very much, President of Proceedings. The Minister for Finance, I don't know whether she's arrived yet, and the Minister for Gender, Labour and Social Development, you are welcome. The Auditor General, I think he's been around. I would like also to welcome the Chief Executive of UBRA, who is our regulator, and he keeps us on the straight and narrow. You are welcome. In a very special way, I would like to welcome Mr. Patrick Kaberenge, who is the chair of the previous board, which set the foundation for this phenomenal growth and transformation. You are welcome, Patrick. And also the advisors of the board, Mr. Tete, we've got also Mr. Koboy and the engineer Semogerere. I would like right now at this point to invite my colleagues on the board because I am because they are. And of course they are because I am. So I would like members of the board to come here. I'm not supposed to talk without their mandate. So the members of the board will come up here and I will be introducing each one. In the meantime, I would like to thank the members of parliament present. I would also like to welcome our auditor and advisor and mentor, Mr. Uthman Mahanja, for coming and also for being present as we give testimony to the nation. I would like to also welcome and thank members of the fund who are present, and members of the media, business and industry who are present at this function. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start by introducing the members of the board who are here. What Mr. Patrick Kaberenge and his team did was to set the foundation of phenomenal growth, the acceleration and the consolidation and also the expansion of the social security in the country. So Mr. Kaberenge set the roots. Our job as members of the board has been and still is to ensure that the wings are able to fly. And what we have done are just about 3 things. Number 1 is to deliver the duty of care, making sure that what Mr. Patrick Ayota has just shared, which are the results, we also add the relationships. So it's both results and relationships. Number 2 is to deliver the duty of loyalty, to ensure that the members, we are committing to a journey which leads to a happy retirement for all servers in Uganda. And the last duty is the duty of obedience, especially to the standards and practices of good governance. On this note, I would like to introduce Mr. Patrick Ochailap, who is also the Deputy Secretary to Treasury, and PST, who is our board member, Dr. Silva Mugisha, who happens also to be the Chief Executive of National Water and Sewage Corporation, Honorable Sam Lyomoki is actually, you can see him right on the side there. You want to wave to the members? Right, yes, Sam Lyomoki. We have also the lawyer, Penina Tikamwesiga, right on the end. Now, we have not been quite lucky this morning. We've missed some of our colleagues. Mr. Agure Chibenge, who is the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Labour, Gender and Social Development, and Ms. Anne Mulindwa, who is also the Chief Executive of Finance Trust. And we are missing Mr. Hassan Mudiba, who is a member of the board, but from the workers' constituency, and Madame Annette Birungi. They are not here yet, but they will be with us. Good people, we are here in a kind of celebration mood. Patrick has mentioned, Patrick Ayota, that crisis shapes us, and we have climbed out of adversity much the same way like when champions get into crisis, they simply evolve, they adopt and move on. NSSF will continue to expect challenges and crises because that's who we are. We have to expect them. If you don't expect crisis and adversity, it's almost like a guy who is in the village market and expects a bull not to charge at him because he's a vegetarian. No. So we expect this. And what we have built is we have built systems to do this. We are shaping a strategy that's creating a new vision for the fund, as you've seen it, 2035, looking far and positioning the fund to achieve exactly that. We are shaping the results, but we are, as a board, we are shaping also the relationships. How? I would like members present here and those online to first of all give, maybe I would consider it very good applause, a thunderous one if you can, to the members of staff of NSSF, all of them. And I would like you to stand up and we really give you real clap. These are the heroes. All members of staff of NSSF, our talent management, mobilizing, engaging, and communicating with members of staff, and even among themselves, and also developing them every day, not to just be experts, technical experts, but to become leaders. To become leaders. Technical experts become leaders. So we thank you very much, Tan. And I must feel very proud, along with my colleagues present here, that I think NSSF hosts some of the most intellectually talented individuals in this country, and you can see from the results. So recovering from the tumultuous times, the very difficult times that we have gone through this year, we give this all to the staff of NSSF, the talent that has done this. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a common word which is called thick, and Patrick Ayota has said everything. But as a board, our job is to ask, analyze, and follow through. And we analyze and follow through in just 5 areas. Number 1 is the technology uptake at the fund. We all know that NSSF is not just your social security fund. NSSF is a technology company. So have no doubt about that. It's just a technology company. Why? Because technology enables connectivity and collaboration across. And we now be able to move from the 20% to the 50% using technology. Number two, I've talked about human capital and the individuals. Number three is the depth of innovation, creative ideas and insights. And you've seen it in High Innovator. But also NSSF, I think, if I'm correct, they are also launching what they call a shadow board. A board that is going to be challenging every assumption that we have in the book to drive superior and excellent performance. The next one is collaboration and the spirit of working together. The spirit of working together and harnessing productive synergies within and also outside. And finally is data, data-driven knowledge. The knowledge that will enable us to be not only more creative, but to target different segments of society better. But perhaps the highlight of it all is what I'm going to read out right now before I launch. What really the roots Patrick Kabereng and team laid, that NSSF is not about money. And that's where I started. It's not only about money. NSSF is committed to broad value creation. NSSF creates value beyond the numbers. And that's why this morning I'm very excited to join my colleagues present here to launch the first ever sustainability report, which is our ESG commitment. Our commitment to be responsible citizens. Today we mark a proud moment as we unveil this inaugural ESG and sustainability report. This report is not merely a collection of facts or figures. It serves as a testament and demonstration of our profound commitment to ESG principles, deeply ingrained in the core of our operations. We commit and state clearly that our regulator, UBRA, will be in many ways assessing and examining our compliance, in addition to other sign-ons that we have with the internationally accepted and internationally recommended raters of ESG compliance of the fund. Our mission extends beyond financial prosperity. It encompasses a deep and responsibility. We are moving from a simple mere handshake, which is more around philanthropy, which is merely more about corporate social responsibility. We are going for an embrace. Members who are present here, especially those who are married or who have relatives you love, you know that there's a difference between a handshake and an embrace, which sometimes is accompanied by more intimacy. So NSSF wants to build that intimacy with the society. This is integral to our strategy. Support to the community and working with the community is part of our business model. It's not peripheral to our business model. So this report is a declaration that we are not just a social security services provider, but a force for positive change for our communities and protecting our planet. As we look ahead, we commit to driving shared value and sustainable growth while addressing the pressing challenges faced by our customers, employers, and communities. Together, we'll create a brighter future marked by contributions and new investment opportunities that will shape the destiny of the fund. I thank you very much. Now, before I step down, I want to, with my colleagues, we want to do this momentous event. I do believe that our legacy as a board will always be marked by this moment, which is the official launch of the ESG report. This is what makes us do business with the human heart. This is what makes us worthwhile and talk about value beyond the numbers. So I would like to have the ESG report, which I'm supposed to be officially launching. Where is the ESG report? Just click a button. Aha. This is very good. I would like you to yes, members of the audience, the gentleman right here is Mr. Hassan Mudiba, who is a member of the board, and also Director Annette Birungi. You want to give them a clap? Yes, that's right. Very good, very good. On behalf of the board, in the presence of the regulator and our auditor, ladies and gentlemen, it is our singular honor and historic opportunity for us to officially launch the ESG report for God and our country. Yeah, we can. How do you do it? No. Yeah, but they didn't have it. So. But wanted to say. I don't know whether we need to have a little interval before I officially invite the Minister for Labor, Gender and Social Development, and then we'll be able to move on. President of the conference proceedings, are we okay? Good.
Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for our chairman, Mr. Peter Kimboa. And since this is being broadcast live, we will take a technical break, which is really to run some of our products for you who are here in the audience and those of you who are online. So let's turn to the screen.
It's a new day at the Fend. A new chapter is unfolding. With renewed ambition, unwavering passion, and an unyielding sense of purpose, we are driven by a newborn spirit to serve not just you, but everyone and anyone who seeks a better life. Together, we're forging a realm of new possibilities. Vision 2035 is clear.
Join us for the 11th NSSF Annual Members Meeting happening on the 26th of September 2023, starting at 9 a.m. live on TV and online. Visit www.nssfug.org/AMM 2023 to register your attendance. NSSF, a better life.
As the sun rises across Uganda, a new dawn in luxury living awakens. Solana Lifestyle and Residences is Uganda's newest, most prestigious and award-winning lifestyle destination, an address for those who dream differently. At Solana, you're close enough to the hustle of the city, but far enough to come home to a sanctuary of smart living. Join a community of like-minded individuals where everything is taken care of and safety and security comes standard, where each community has a clubhouse, play area, pool, and other incredible features. Let an oasis of calm greet you at the end of each day with manicured gardens, pathways, parks, bicycle tracks, and so much more. Whether you're upscaling or settling down, buying a first home or investing,
Solana has it all.
Everyone wakes up to a day of hard work. To get hold of that new opportunity in order to live a better life. And everyone deserves a chance to change their circumstances and rewrite their story. Be inspired by the future, imagine it and live it. To shape the future and be able to withstand life's surprises. To ensure that tomorrow will be a better day.
Now you can.
Now you can. Now you can.
Now you can. Now you can.
Secure their future. The NSSF Amendment Act now requires all formally registered employers to make monthly NSSF contributions for their staff, regardless of the number of staff they employ. NSSF, a better life.
As the sun rises across Uganda, a new dawn in luxury living awakens. Solana Lifestyle and Residences is Uganda's newest, most prestigious and award-winning lifestyle destination, an address for those who dream differently. At Solana, you're close enough to the hustle of the city, but far enough to come home to a sanctuary of smart living. Join a community of like-minded individuals where everything is taken care of and safety and security come standard, where each community has a clubhouse, play area, pool, and other incredible features. Let an oasis of calm greet you at the end of each day with manicured gardens, pathways, parks, bicycle tracks, and so much more. Whether you're upscaling or settling down, buying a first home or investing,
Solana has it all.
It's a new day at the Fend. A new chapter is unfolding. With renewed ambition, unwavering passion, and an unyielding sense of purpose, we are driven by a newborn spirit to serve not just you, but everyone and anyone who seeks a better life. Together, we're forging a realm of new possibilities. Vision 2035 is clear.
Join us for the 11th NSSF Annual Members Meeting happening on the 26th of September 2023, starting at 9 a.m. live on TV and online. Visit www.nssfug.org/AMM 2023 to register your attendance. NSSF.
As the sun rises across Uganda, a new dawn in luxury living awakens. Solana Lifestyle and Residences is Uganda's newest, most prestigious and award-winning lifestyle destination, an address for those who dream differently. At Solana, you're close enough to the hustle of the city, but far enough to come home to a sanctuary of smart living. Join a community of like-minded individuals where everything is taken care of and safety and security come standard, where each community has a clubhouse, play area, pool, and other incredible features. Let an oasis of calm greet you at the end of each day with manicured gardens, pathways, parks, bicycle tracks, and so much more. Whether you're upscaling or settling down, buying a first home or investing,
Solana has it all.
Everyone wakes up to a day of hard work. To get hold of that new opportunity in order to live a better life. And everyone deserves a chance to change their circumstances and rewrite their story. Be inspired by the future, imagine it and live it. To shape the future and be able to withstand life's surprises. To ensure that tomorrow will be a better day.
Now you can.
Now you can. Now you can.
Now you can. Now you can.
Secure their future. The NSSF Amendment Act now requires all formally registered employers to make monthly NSSF contributions for their staff, regardless of the number of staff they employ. NSSF, a better life.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching the 11th NSSF Annual Members Meeting. We are coming to you live from the Kampala Serena Hotel. And very shortly, the moment we've all been waiting for will be happening here with the Finance Minister officially unveiling our interest rate for this financial year 22, ending financial year 22-23. A lot of excitement building up online. A lot of the questions you are asking revolve around the expectations based on the performance as shared with us by the Managing Director. And a lot of the conversations on X that a lot of people have shared are very optimistic, and all the members are looking at the numbers. And I'm sure those of you who have your money at NSSF will be waiting for that much anticipated SMS later today. So if you haven't charged your Kabiriti, this is the only best time to do that. If you have one of those smartphones that drains the battery very quickly, I suggest you carry a power bank today. That SMS will be coming. A couple of messages. We are using the hashtag AMM2023, and I did see a tweet here where we are looking at the promise to grow the fund from 10% coverage to 50% coverage by 2035. That kind of sums up the mood online, and you can tell that the conversations online are in anticipation for what should be an exciting early part of today or early afternoon when that announcement is made by the Honorable Minister. I want, of course, in a very special way to recognize our Minister of Gender, who is here with us and will be speaking to us very shortly, but also all the board members of NSSF and the key stakeholders that are here in the room. All right, so very shortly, I will be inviting the chair, who will then invite the minister, but we are having a receiving party shortly for the Finance Minister, who will be joining us shortly. We want to appreciate our virtual audience and, of course, the Auditor General who joined us virtually, and all the members who are able to watch live and share today's conversation across all platforms. You can use our hashtag AWM or AMM2023, but also you can share the link with a friend and ensure that all the members are ready to watch as we unveil this interest rate later this morning. I want also in a very special way to, again, appreciate the team at NSSF for the great performance that was shared with us by the Managing Director, and we appreciate that. And ladies and gentlemen, very shortly I will be transitioning to that announcement, and we will be transitioning into the final phases of today's conversation. Immediately after the announcement on the interest rate, of course, we will have a Q&A session with the senior management team at the fund, who will be taking us through the questions that you are sharing with us online and all the platforms that are available to you. And these questions have already been shared, and we want to appreciate all of you that have been sending your questions in, and we are currently putting together these questions for the team at NSSF to give you feedback. The Honourable Minister, I'm told, has arrived, and we will quickly move into this next phase of the program. I want to appreciate all our digital platforms that are sharing this conversation with all our members who are on the X platform and all the other socials that are available to us, including our very own GCIC that is here in the room. I want to take the pleasure of recognizing the arrival of our Finance Minister, and Honourable Minister, you're welcome, and we want to thank you, sir, for joining us this morning. We will, as soon as the Minister has settled in, invite the Chair, who will then invite the Honourable Minister of Gender to address us, but that's after our Finance Minister has settled in. It's that moment, just as we always anticipate during the budget reading, where the Honourable Minister carries a briefcase. This is the big moment, when the Minister carries the interest rate with him. I have tried, honestly, I have tried to ask as many friends as I have in NSSF to share with me the number, and they have refused. Because they say the Honourable Minister is the only one who knows the interest rate. I am anticipating and looking forward to that moment when the Honorable Minister unveils the interest rate. Honorable Minister, you're welcome. I think we will next time carry a briefcase written on interest rate as you walk in. That will be the moment we all look forward to. May I now once again take the pleasure of inviting the chairman of the board to come and invite our Minister for Gender to address us. You're welcome, Chairman.
Ladies and gentlemen, members present here physically and online, allow me to invite you also to join me in welcoming our Minister for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Matia Kasaija. You are welcome. And once again, also the Minister for Labor, Gender and Social Services, Honorable Betty Among, who joined. Welcome. There was, and I'm to blame for this omission, and I beg your pardon, to have failed and forgot or skipped the introduction of someone who is part of the leadership team of NSSF and who is also a very important catalyst and engine for transformation. Mr. Gerard Kasato, can you come over here? Mr. Gerard Kasato, who is on my right, is the acting deputy managing director of the fund. And he is not going to say anything, but is part of the promise that the managing director, Patrick Ayota, made this morning to all of you. So thank you very much, Gerard. On this note, I would like to invite our supervisor, the Minister for Labor, Gender and Social Development, Honorable Betty Among, to come here and lead us on the journey to the final announcement, which our colleague is going to make later this morning. Honorable Betty Among.
The honorable members of the Honorable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, the honorable members of Parliament who are here, the chair and the board members, the MD and the staff, the UBRA and all of you in your various capacity. I stand here this morning before members who are here and virtually to report to you that I'm glad by the presentation from the managing director indicating that the last 1 year the fund has made progress than many other previous years in respect to increase in collection from contributions. I am very glad because that is how I am judged as a minister in charge of labor, because the funds are collected from workers. This has already indicated, despite the difficult issues which confronted us in the transition from the Ministry of Finance to the Ministry of Gender. I am humbled by the support and trust, the confidence the public, the members of Parliament and stakeholders placed on all of us during this turbulent period. To me, leadership demands that we must not run away from tackling even the most difficult challenge, so long as we stay focused on the bigger picture. Leadership is indeed tested during the most hardest of times, not during the most peaceful of time. I therefore want to applaud the management team who kept the ship sailing in the waves, achieving highly during this tough time. They did not relent despite all the negativity. Instead, they seized the opportunity remained committed to the vision, and today we see the positive outlook from the presentation of the Managing Director. I congratulate you. Members, 38 years ago, Uganda joined the global community under International Labour Organization and enacted the National Social Security Act 1985, which established the National Social Security Fund to provide for its membership, the payment of contributions to, and the payments of benefits out of the fund, and for other purposes connected therein. Social security schemes is a global strategy by the United Nations to support workers to save for long term, to address vulnerability of workers during old age when they retire. It was adopted as a strategy to support the workers from plunging into poverty at retirement. The role of Social Security is therefore critical, particularly today, at a time when centrality of social policies and values of social justice more broadly are coming under a lot of pressure. You know COVID, you know all the pressures pulls people back into poverty, and this puts more pressure on Social Security. Social Security is not a drag of economic development, but a powerful force driving it forward. By prioritizing Social Security, we are demonstrating that growth and development do not benefit from denying people a fair share of productivity gains our societies are generating, nor are economic transformation and innovation served by leaving the poor behind. Eliminating extreme poverty and putting a social protection in place is a major contribution for realization of a number of sustainable development goals, beginning with the first: end poverty in all its form everywhere. The nexus between social protection, quality job creation, and sustainable economic growth is perfectly laid in the ILO Social Protection Recommendation 2012, number 202, and Social Security is an important tool to prevent and reduce poverty, inequality, social exclusion, and social insecurity, to promote equal opportunity and support the transition from informal to formal employment. Social Security is an investment in people that empowers them to adjust to changes in the economy, in the labor market, and Social Security system act as automatic social and economic stabilizer, helps stimulate aggregate demand in times of crisis and beyond, and help support a transition to a more sustainable economy. If you look at what Uganda has done post-COVID, you realize that we have pushed much more on the social sector. That's why you see the PDM targeting 39% of the most poor. It's a form of social security to see how the majority of the poor can pull up by government policy. Government of Uganda believes that building robust social security system is about much more than only eliminating poverty, but also to facilitate economic growth through strategic investment of its fund in the economy. We want to congratulate NSSF for investing in sectors that have supported the growth of this economy, in bonds, in housing, which has enabled Honorable Kasaija to be able to fund most of the government programs. Equally, under human capital development, Social Security plays a crucial role in the protection of minimum income, health care, social insurance, and other elements of the welfare, which are all important for securing human capital and thus productivity gains, a perspective that is rather lopsidedly economic. It is important to note that our current Social Security Fund members at NSSF are composed of low-income earners as the majority savers. To go to the numbers, in the fund that you see at now 18 trillion, the numbers talks to the most vulnerable being the bedrock of this fund, because those whose savings are below 10 million constitute 83% of the total savers at the fund. This group earn on an average a monthly income of 250,000 per month. They are the ones that are the bedrock, constituting 83%. Those with savings ranging from 10 million to 50 million are 12%. Those with saving in the fund ranging between 50 to 100 million constitute 3%. And those above 100 million, maybe most of you here have 100 million and above. So you people who are in this room, you constitute 2% of the money in the fund. So you can judge yourself. Therefore, whatever decisions we make, we must be considerate to the needs of the majority of the members. If you are investing members' money on other social protection interventions as housing, you must balance between targeting high-end population with low-income earners as a measure for social protection in terms of affordable housing. In many countries, social security interventions is used to address inequality and redistribute wealth. Most low-income housing built by social security funds have addressed low-income housing targeting their members. I have therefore advised the board and managers of NSSF to develop a strategy for affordable housing for NSSF members. In February 2023, HE, the President, signed a bipartisan bill into an act, introducing voluntary savings and reducing mandatory contributions from 5 employees to 1 employee. These amendments reaffirm the commitment of our government to the principle of providing universal access to social security. Since then, we have intensified mobilization and sensitization, targeting stakeholders to implement the new act to enable us expand coverage. During these engagements, I am emphasizing the need for employers to comply with issuing contracts to all employees, because it is in the contract that a provision for deduction of NSSF is embedded. I am emphasizing employers to ensure that they deduct and remit contributions of employees, and that when they do so, they must indicate the names, the account numbers, and other details of employers to avoid money of members coming and lying in the suspense account. I am emphasizing NSSF to ensure that they leverage other government MDAs, they leverage our labor officers to ensure there is outreaches in the informal sector as they introduce the voluntary saving. I will soon conclude the statutory instrument on voluntary saving, which allows all categories of people to save, those in the jua kali, the private sector, corporate entities, and recently, when we had engagement with the illegal migrants in the UK, they showed willingness and the need for them to save. And what were they telling us? They were telling us they go for chayo, they reach there, they're illegal, and they cannot save within the system of UK. And so, if they are able to be supported under voluntary saving, then they will be able to save that money under NSSF, and when they come back, they have their saving. So I hope that chairman was very instrumental in those meetings, that you will follow through with those groups that are very enthusiastic. I must emphasize that His Excellency the President has demonstrated his commitment to the country that he would want expansion of Social Security through signing the new amendment. And as you are aware, Social Security forms a very big part of the NRM manifesto, and we must keep that promise. The work ahead, therefore, rests with the board and the management team. Today, I'm confident with the team, and with the presentation from the MD, there's a clear and dramatic demonstration that our system works when men and women of goodwill together come to work as a team. So I again want to congratulate you. From his presentation again, you realize that for you to come to the interest that the minister will declare today, there are many factors that will contribute to that. The collection from contribution, how the money has been invested, profit from the interest, and losses. But I am again happy that from the analysis, the Ugandan side of investments and collection have stood firm and given high interest rate and high achievement, while the Kenyan part has been lowered due to the depreciation of the Kenyan shillings. The important part of this analysis is that when we increase collection and contribution from employers, then it will balance whatever losses we will have. So my emphasis as a minister in charge of labor is that collection of contribution from members remains the single most fundamental foundation for money that should be invested in NSSF. And so we must do everything to ensure that we collect money and contributions from the members. We must look at also the management team and their ability to grasp the strategic goal holistically. And I'm glad that with this presentation, the management has confirmed to us that they have a broader strategy that places the importance on collecting contribution and expanding coverage of social security. I therefore want to pledge to members today that the team here has demonstrated resilience, proved that they are strategic thinkers, effective, and willing to continue learning and engaging stakeholders. Together, we shall use the new law to expand and improve social security system to adhere to the principle of universal coverage and to significantly increase the participation rate of the people in the informal sector, in the corporate sector, private sector, migrants, to ensure that we scale up social security. Lastly, I think we all share the same belief that economic success is not an end on itself. Social security is a staircase to social justice. We are all making our modest contribution in building that staircase. I thank you for your individual and collective contributions, and now allow me to call and invite the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to come and declare their interest. Thank you very much.
The Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development. Is the Auditor General here? Represented? Okay. The representative of the Auditor General, Mr. Chairman of NSSF Board of Directors, members of NSSF Board, the Managing Director, NSSF, the Chief Executive Officer, UBRA, management of NSSF, workers' representatives, members of the fund. I repeat this, members of the fund. The media fraternity and all invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure once again, we're here last year, to join you for the 11th NSSF annual members meeting. I would also like to congratulate the NSSF board and the management for posting a remarkable performance on almost all the key performance indicators. Congratulations. Yes, when someone does something good, we cheer him or we cheer her. Cheer again. I am especially glad that the fund's assets registered a growth again from Uganda shillings 17.26 trillion in financial year 2021-22 to Uganda shillings 18.56 trillion in financial year 23-24. Many naysayers, as a new word, for us down there, there is a word we use. Those who don't appreciate when things have been done well. But I will use the word which somebody wrote here for me. Many naysayers did not imagine the possibility of growing this fund to Uganda shillings 20 trillion. That you would achieve that strategic objective a year ahead of schedule that we achieve that strategic objective a year ahead of schedule is definitely laudable. The second KPI I am interested in is the money you generated during the year, because that shows the productivity of the investments that I approved during the year. I am therefore glad that the total realized income earned increased by 15% from 1.9 trillion in the financial year 2022 to shillings 2.2 trillion in the financial year 22-23. This is very commendable given the turmoil in Europe do the things has been taking place in Europe. Investor flight from most of the developing markets back to the USA, reduction in value across all East African stock markets, and the increased scrutiny that the fund underwent in the third quarter of the just concluded financial year. Now I want to do what has brought me here. That is declaration of interest rate for financial year 22-23. In 2013, the fund made a commitment to pay savers a real annual return, that is, at least 2 percentage points above the 10-year rate of inflation. I am happy to note that the fund has consistently delivered on this commitment. In accordance with Section 35, Part 2 of the NSSF Act, as amended, I hereby I want to first see. Chiwede. Okay, in accordance with the section 35, part 2 of the NSSF Act as amended, I hereby declare the interest rate of 10%. As provided for the NSSF Act, I'm about to finish. As amended, this new rate will be calculated and credited to the balance outstanding on the member's account as of 1st July 2022. This new rate equals to shillings 1.591 trillion Uganda shillings in total. Last financial year, the 10-year average rate of inflation was 4.2%. The rate I have just declared is 5.8% above the 10-year average, which means that the fund has once again delivered on its promise and surpassed it by almost 3.8%. To the members, thank you for trusting the NSSF with your money. It is safe. No fooling, it is safe. Your money is very safe. The fund is an institution we are all proud of, and we shall not let you down. With these remarks and my doing my duty, I would like to thank you, all of you, and may God help you in whatever you're doing. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, another big round of applause for the Honorable Minister of Finance for the big announcement, our 10% interest rate. Honorable Minister, we want to thank you. As I move the podium away, which the team is handling, Honorable Minister, just one or two asks. You will have a photo moment with the Minister for Gender and the board of NSSF, and they will do two things. One, we'll have the photo with our interest rate, the most important thing today, right? And then the next photo is with our brand new report, the ESG Sustainability Report, which was launched today by the board, and we will want a photo moment with you and the board and that report on the screen. So, Evelyn and the team, if we could remove the podium first. Evie, can we remove the podium now? Because I only have 1 minute. The minister has granted me, all right? Honorable Minister, we want to thank you for your time. There was optimism on social media. There was some worry also, given what we've seen in the region. And I think the MD also did not help the situation by talking about Kenya too much in his presentation. He kept reminding us and kept sharing what was happening in Kenya, where some of our money is. And so people then started getting jittery. And you can tell sentiment, Honorable Minister. We've been watching on social media. Before you arrived, we only had about 2,000 people on the platform sitting. When the Minister of Gender was speaking, it was 3,600. Now you could see this excitement building. By the time you announced, we had 5,000 people, members waiting for this grand announcement. So, Honorable Ministers, if you could take to the front, Chairman of the Board and your team, please come. We will have two photos, one with the interest rate and the other with our ESG. Our regulator, Ubra, should be there. Please do join. Our acting deputy CEO, please come. Let's join the team as we officially unveil this 10% interest rate and the ESG and sustainability report. Those are the two photos that the minister and the board will be taking. And immediately after that, as the ministers depart, I will be inviting the executive team that will then be joining us for our plenary session, our online audience, our virtual audience. The questions you've shared with us have been looked at, and that is what we will be putting before the executive team at the fund, and those questions will be answered. Now that we know the interest rate, a lot of the questions were around the interest rate and what was informing the interest rate, which truly is the performance and the outlook of the fund, was one of the topmost number of questions we were being asked. What's the interest rate? And that has been unveiled by the Honorable Minister. And shortly we will then delve into the other questions our audiences have been asking and the online teams have been sharing. All right, so that's the first photo. We'll now have the ESG report, technical team. If we can have their ESG report in the background. And that also will mark, yes, there you go, Honorable Ministers. That is our ESG report that was launched today by the board, and the chairman and the board were graceful enough to launch this report as a fund, and we want to appreciate all of them. Ladies and gentlemen, can we once again put our hands together for the Honorable Ministers? Honorable Minister, thank you very much. I'll allow the chair and the CEO to see, and the MD to see our ministers out. As they do that, we will take a very small, short moment and run these announcements on behalf of the fund, and as we constitute our plenary session.
Hold of that new opportunity in order to live a better life. And everyone deserves a chance to change their circumstances and rewrite their story. Be inspired by the future, imagine it and live it. To shape the future and be able to withstand life's surprises. To ensure that tomorrow will be a better day.
Now you can.
Now you can. Now you can.
Now you can. Now you can.
Secure their future. The NSSF Amendment Act now requires all formally registered employers to make monthly NSSF contributions for their staff, regardless of the number of staff they employ. NSSF, a better life.
It's a new day at the Fund. A new chapter is unfolding. With renewed ambition, unwavering passion, and an unyielding sense of purpose, we are driven by a newborn spirit to serve not just you, but everyone and anyone who seeks a better life. Together, we're forging a realm of new possibilities. Vision 2035 is clear.
Join us for the 11th NSSF Annual Members Meeting happening on the 26th of September 2023, starting at 9 a.m. live on TV and online. Visit www.nssfug.org/AMM 2023 to register your attendance. NSSF.
As the sun rises across Uganda, a new dawn in luxury living awakens. Solana Lifestyle and Residences is Uganda's newest, most prestigious and award-winning lifestyle destination, an address for those who dream differently. At Solana, you're close enough to the hustle of the city, but far enough to come home to a sanctuary of smart living. Join a community of like-minded individuals where everything is taken care of and safety and security come standard, where each community has a clubhouse, play area, pool, and other incredible features. Let an oasis of calm greet you at the end of each day with manicured gardens, pathways, parks, bicycle tracks, and so much more. Whether you're upscaling or settling down, buying a first home or investing,
Solana has it all.
Everyone wakes up to a day of hard work. To get hold of that new opportunity in order to live a better life. And everyone deserves a chance to change their circumstances and rewrite their story. Be inspired by the future, imagine it and live it. to shape the future and be able to withstand life's surprises. To ensure that tomorrow will be a better day.
Now you can.
Now you can. Now you can.
Now you can. Now you can.
Secure their future. The NSSF Amendment Act now requires all formally registered employers to make monthly NSSF contributions for their staff regardless of the number of staff they employ. NSSF, a better life.
It's a new day at the Fend. A new chapter is unfolding. With renewed ambition, unwavering passion, and an unyielding sense of purpose, we are driven by a newborn spirit to serve not just you, but everyone and anyone who seeks a better life. Together, we're forging a realm of new possibilities. Vision 2035 is clear.
Join us for the 11th NSSF Annual Members Meeting happening on the 26th of September 2023, starting at 9 a.m. live on TV and online. Visit www.nssfug.org/AMM 2023 to register your attendance. NSSF.
All right. Once again, we want to welcome you back from that very short break. We are now quickly transitioning to our plenary session, and I want to invite our panelists today who will be speaking to the questions that have been posed to them by our members, and this has already been tabulated and shared with us. Again, we will be working within the time that we have been provided. Allow me invite our panelists who are here and are with us this morning. I want to invite the Corporation Secretary, Ms. Agnes Isharaza, to take her seat. Please do take your seat, Mrs. Isharaza. Also, our Chief Financial Officer, Stevens Mwanje, please do take your seat. Our Chief Commercial Officer, Geoffrey Sajabi. Our Head of Marketing and Corporate Affairs, Barbara Rimi. And also joining them shortly will be the MD and the Deputy Managing Director. That is as soon as they have concluded the ceremony they're handling at the moment. But I want to welcome you back. And again, as I said, this particular conversation that we are having is shared already with the members, and the members have asked these questions. These are not questions from the fund, but questions from our members. Managing Director Patrick Ayota, please do take your seat. And very shortly, we'll be joined by Gerald Paul Casato, who is the Acting Deputy Managing Director. All right, MD, I think, first of all, we want to appreciate you and your team that are here with us this morning and early part of the afternoon. And we are taking questions from our members. We have quite a bunch of questions. We received close to 400 questions. That is our, oh, apologies, sorry. We received over 400 questions from our members, and we are looking at these questions. And I want to start with the Managing Director, Mr. Patrick Ayota. We are looking at the question from Kakule Edwin. MD, your very first question from Kakule says, what best options can I use my savings for when I retire? Does NSSF support members on such financial advisory?
On?
Oh, yes. Yes, now it's on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Henry, for that question. In fact, it's a question that all of us need to ask before you come for your money. A lot of it is going to depend on what your financial desires are, what your obligations are. If you have 100 million shillings with a fund, and you've been earning 1 million shillings, and you've lived on 1 million shillings, it may be worthwhile asking the question, what can I invest my 100 million shillings to continue earning a million shillings, because then you know you will sustain your lifestyle. Now, we do have the financial literacy. We are open, you can speak with us. By the way, we are selfless enough to tell you can put it in this place, you can put it in this place, depending on what your financial objectives are. So we do have that.
All right, still with you, MD. Louis Mulanga says, how far has the fund gone with changing the NSSF law on midterm?
Because earlier on, the National Social Security Fund has declared 10% interest on savings money, on your money, and without wasting a lot of time, we need to speak to Jared Kasato. Jared is the acting deputy general
I'll come to this.
acting deputy director of the National Social Security.
What's the fund doing in order to recover money?
Thank you, Malcolm. Congratulations, by the way. Thank you. I was really very I did not expect you to announce an interest rate higher than the 9.5%. How did you manage to achieve that with all the challenges, the turbulence, the markets across the region having affected the performance of our investments in those particular areas, in Tanzania, in Rwanda, in Kenya? As you heard, the MPs kept talking about it. One of the standouts really that came out in the financials, as the hot areas. How did you manage to achieve the 10%?
Thank you, Malcolm, and thank you for the congratulations. As you heard from the presentation from the Managing Director, we saw our revenue grow by 16% from 1.9 trillion last year to 2.2 trillion the year ended. That was on account of increased interest income, but then also despite the fact that the stock markets did not perform as we expected, actually the companies that we invest in saw a record increase in the dividend income. It increased by almost 45% from 100 billion last year to 145 billion. But having said that, I think it is also important to note that actually, despite the turmoil that the fund went through, we saw our contributions increase by 16%. The year before we had them at 1.49 trillion, and the most recent year we had them at 1.72 trillion. So it was largely on account of increased revenue, but then on account of increased contributions from members, which shows that despite the challenges that the fund faced in the second half of the financial year, the people of Uganda, the employers and employees, still have trust in the fund.
As we look forward, the global shocks, economic shocks and regional shocks might not really go away very, very soon. What does that mean for future results, for future investments the fund is making outside the country? I know that the bond market, the returns on the bonds, there was declines on yields and all that. What are you seeing? What's your outlook, your expectations? Because you'll continue to invest in those regional markets, either.
Yeah, thank you, Malcolm, again. We believe that we've managed to structure the investment strategy of the fund to be resilient in spite of whatever happens in terms of external shocks. We target an average expected return of about 12% with a volatility of about 2%, which means that we are 95% confident that the return will always be between 8% and 14%. Now, if that one can be confirmed with the kind of turmoil that we saw in the last financial year, that speaks to the resilience and the robustness of the investment strategy. So we believe that going forward, we should be able to sustain the promise which we gave to members, which is the average 10-year inflation plus 2%.
Thank you very much, Jared. 10% on your savings.
Finance Officer Stephen. Stephen, the very first question for you comes from Peter Okello, who says, how do you calculate or calculate, depending on which stage you're in, how do you calculate the interest rate to members? That's a big question. How did we get to 10%?
The 10% was achieved, and then the other explanations of the challenges that the fund is facing amidst the savings that you're putting in. So, hey, we hand you over now to TV Live. Cross over to the coach.
Thank you. Thank you, Malcolm.
As the first day of the beginning of the financial year, as the minister declared.
So based on that, we have a balance against the issue.
Did it go well? I'm new to these things.
Well or badly the fund has performed. Because basically what we do, we get everything, all the earnings that we have had, and take off the little money we spent in expenses and redistribute the rest to the members. So that's how it is. So what is in the pot then determines the interest rate we are going to give you. You've heard the minister say that what was in the pot this year was 1.51 trillion shillings, which translated